you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alex. This week, I want to talk about social wellness. There are several different aspects of wellness, and while physical health and wellness can be the easiest one to consider, social wellness is one we kind of let slip by the wayside. With coronavirus going on, it can also be difficult to use a lot of our normal outlets for obtaining social wellness. I know that in my personal experience, social wellness is probably the one that I neglect the most. Social wellness and then probably emotional wellness. My name is Alex and I am a workaholic. So if you are in a similar boat, then today should be helpful for you. I also picked this topic because it's helpful for me. I'm very big into personal growth, just like many of you who are listening to this podcast. And I can't really sit here and talk to you guys about this if I'm not working on it myself. So dig deep with me today as we talk about social wellness, including what it is, how it can improve other aspects of your health and wellness, and stick around for our last segment in which we talk about some strategies for improving your social health. So first up, what even is social wellness, and why is it something we should even care about? Well, that's a great question. That's partly why I have pushed that to the wayside for the longest time. It's important to have, good self-esteem and respect for yourself and to learn how to be happy on your own. I'm a very independent person and I am quite happy hanging out with myself. I like my own company. I like to read. You guys know that I pay more attention to intellectual wellness than social wellness. But it's not enough to just be by yourself all the time. It's not necessarily healthy in that manner. So humans are very much social creatures, and as introverted as many of us tend to be, it's still important to have a good social network, especially if you are taking a holistic approach to health and well-being. And that is definitely something I try to do. So, social wellness is at its core just your ability to form and maintain relationships with other people, not necessarily romantic relationships, mostly platonic ones, but it can also be romantic ones. It also involves your ability to really communicate your needs to other people, making sure that you can also listen to other people's needs and vexations and provide emotional support when other people need you, as well as reaching out to others when you need emotional support too. So social wellness really focuses on developing all of the types of relationships in your life, whether that be with friends and family members, or coworkers, other members of your community, and your romantic partners. Getting that social connection can help decrease your stress. It can improve health issues, especially those related to your endocrine system immune system and cardiovascular system. It can also reduce isolation. And remember, as we discussed in our episode on loneliness, even isolation that is self-imposed and you don't really feel upset by it can still create some of the same results as loneliness. It can create stress in your life. So we want to decrease that proactively. And it can also address other concerns that can get in your way when you're trying to live a healthy, positive lifestyle. And doctors do already recognize this. That's why hospitals encourage people who are chronically ill to go to emotional support groups, or they make sure that people have a support system before they do certain procedures or operations. It's important for you to have somebody there for you to help decrease your risk of dying, of rehospitalization, and any stress-related health issues. If you're super stressed and you're producing all that cortisol, that's not great for your sleep cycles, which are also part of affecting your immune system. We want to address that holistically, right? Well, social wellness, even though it's not one of the fun types of wellness, well, for introverts anyway, maybe for those of you out there who are extroverts, this is your favorite type of wellness. But for the rest of us, it's a little bit icky sometimes having to go out there and make friends, but we can do it. I recently moved across the United States from Texas to North Carolina back in June, and for the most part, I've not made a ton of new friends. That's partly because of COVID-19, but also because even before COVID-19, I was reluctant to leave my house. And it's just like a lot of other skills. If you don't use it, you kind of lose it a little bit. So I've been trying to make friends recently, but because I have just been hanging out with my friends I've had forever, or who have been easy to make friends with because I've met them through work, or they're the partner of one of my best friends, etc. I've gotten a little rusty at it. So I made a friend yesterday while I was out running errands, and this person is super cool. Turns out we both raised goats as kids, and we both went to the same college. We were there at the same time. We overlapped by a year, and we had the exact same major down to the concentration, but somehow in a super small field, never encountered each other. She lived off campus and I lived on campus, and since we were about a year apart, our classes didn't entirely overlap. Even though we were taking the same classes, I was a year behind her. And it's super wacky how small the world is when it comes to things like that. So she and I have a lot in common, and I was like, this person's really cool. I want to make friends with them. But I had forgotten how to do that, and so it comes off really awkward and weird. But I wrote my name and number on a piece of paper and my identifier, so being like, hey, we graduated from the same college, same major, and went ahead and handed it to her when she was in the other room. I walked in there and I was like, hey, would you like to be friends? This feels really meta. I don't know what friend making in adulthood really looks like, but you seem cool, and I would like to be your friend. I bet if we were friends on Facebook too, we probably have friends in common, even if we don't necessarily know each other from college. Y'all, I am more nervous about making friends with other awesome women than I am about talking to any prospective partner. I'm not even kidding. I'm like, wow, you're really cool. Do you want to be friends? And you know what? It worked. Even though it was a very meta approach, it was incredibly direct. And in my experience, that can be a little off-putting to some people. But hey, I'm a direct person. Take me as I am. And it worked. So she was stoked to be friends too. And also, she added me on Facebook. by the end of the evening. I wasn't sure if she was going to use my number or add me on Facebook, but she found me, and we do have a friend in common from college. I've not had time to talk to her about that yet, but I am stoked to reach out to my new friend and form this new social connection. Turns out she doesn't live very far from me either. So although social connection making can be a little bit stressful, especially in adulthood outside of our normal comfort zones like the office or in college and classes where you have time to get to know people first before you go, hey, we should hang out or we should be friends. It's actually not so bad. And I've had people do the same thing with me. Well, sort of, with like a mediator. A while back, we were at a mutual friend's house and the mutual friend was like, hey, yeah, you guys should totally hang out. And we're like, okay. And the mutual friend was like, yeah, she was saying the other day that you were really cool and she was wondering if you would want to hang out with her. And I'm like, of course, I think you're really cool and I would love to hang out with you. You were in the Peace Corps and all of this other stuff. Like, you are a really interesting person with a big heart and a lot of life experience that is wildly different from mine and the path that I took. So yes, let's totally be friends. And now we're friends. And I went to a bonfire at her house. It was just her and her partner. So we could maintain social distance and everything. But you guys, it's not so bad. And now we can also talk about other things that we have in common and people that we have in common. So keeping in touch about different friends in our lives who were mutual friends, but one of us might have lost contact with them. And now you can say, oh, hey, this person's doing well, or hey, this person's having trouble. Maybe we should go ahead and reach out to them. And, maybe we can do that together, or maybe a separate approach would be better. So it's also helping me to form other social networks to support our other friends, if that makes sense. It's being the social support you want to see in the world, more or less. You can get all kinds of these types of benefits from it. You can probably hear the joy in my voice right now from having made more friends. And some of the friends are super busy, just like I am. But that's also great because there is no apologizing when we're too busy to hang out. It's just an accepted understanding of going, oh yeah, go out there and get that money. Pick up that independent contracting position. Pick up a few hours today. Do whatever you need to. And it's still a form of social support. Because workaholics need social support too, you guys. That's one of the few ways that we can feel seen and heard and understood. And also just generally accepted. And it feels nice to be accepted because then you don't feel like you have to be uptight when you go to hang out with your friends. There's not going to be a lot of apologizing for having not gotten back to them for a few days in your text messages or anything like that. And there's also none of that, letting a message sit in the elephant graveyard of your phone for a while and then it just being the elephant in the room. Where you're afraid to go ahead and reach out to them and make it awkward because you've waited so long to respond. It's taken out a lot of the awkwardness in my life to find other friends who are also similar to me in important ways and different in super interesting ways. So cultivating a varied support system can be super helpful. It's improved my emotional wellness so far. I think it's probably improving my physical health. I feel pretty healthy. And I can tell you from my experience that working on your social network, whether that be obtaining new friends who you can socially support and who support you, or shedding friends and old acquaintances that perhaps were not healthy for you, socially, emotionally, mentally, it can be a big boon to your overall health and happiness. As a side note, my skin looks amazing right now. I have been using a pillow cream, but I think that a large part of it is just happiness. And remember that being happy and optimistic can also be fantastic for your health. So we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about some of the benefits of social wellness as they relate to other aspects of health and wellness. Stay tuned.
Are you looking to learn more about the latest trends from the fitness world? Are you confused by all of the different trends that are out there? The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place for you. The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place to come for people of all skill and interest levels. Join us as we explore the latest trends in the fitness world. Does that new exercise really work? Should I try yoga? Whatever your question, chances are good you'll find an answer on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Social wellness and why it really matters. Now we're going to talk about some ways social wellness can improve other aspects of your health and wellness, including your physical health, emotional stability, and mental wellness. So, first up, let's talk about social relationships and stress. So, researchers are really still looking into all of the health benefits of maintaining these positive, supportive social networks. But what they have found so far is that people who have social support networks tend to have better health outcomes than folks who have low quantity or quality of social relationships. Social relationships in general can help reduce stress, which we discussed earlier and in previous podcasts, and that in turn can affect many other aspects of your life, including your sleep, which is tied into your weight and also into your immune system and your mental health and issues like anxiety and depression. So this is really something that not even snowballs. It is more of a spider web effect and can positively impact your entire body, really. These healthy relationships can also provide you with some accountability and encouragement to do the things that are good for you, like eating healthy and exercising. I know that for me, I do a lot better with exercising and such if I have a buddy for it. So my best friend, Janine, and I often go to the gym together. I signed up for the gym when I first moved here, just based on the one that she went to, so that we could go together. Some of my friends go to different gyms because they like the setup better. I didn't explore them because for me, it was less about the equipment and more about having that person that I could be an accountability buddy with. So for me, all I needed is some free weights and the hip abductor adductor machine. That thing is my absolute favorite. And when combined with the leg press machine, you guys, I can't even put it into words, really. I have greatly toned my legs, lifted my buttocks muscles, and am overall just a lot healthier than I was before. But I also notice that if Janine doesn't go for some reason, then I tend to not go. She is a lot better about internal drive and motivation, so she goes ahead and goes regardless. But if, for example, recently she hurt her ankle, she sprained it, she wasn't able to go to the gym, I didn't go for the entire week, you guys. Shame on me. I need that accountability buddy, that social support to help remind me, hey, this is a thing that's important to your health. This is a thing that we need to be prioritizing and getting done. Now, I know that it's important for my health and wellness, but a lot of times I just get really dug into my work. And then it gets to the end of the night and I'm like, great, if I go work out now, I'm going to be awake for the rest of the night. And then I don't do it, even though I go to a 24/7 gym. It also helps to have somebody else there to dangle the carrot in front of your face. So for me, a lot of the time, if I'm like, I just have so much work to do, or I am tired, I just don't feel like going, there's seasonal depression and COVID depression and also just general depression that was already there. I don't want to go to the gym, but I know I always feel better afterwards. Janine can also be my social support and put that carrot in front of my face by going, hey, we can go get coffee after. We'll pick up coffee on the way home. And I'm like, yes, we will go and get this coffee. And I will negate some of the calories I'm going to be drinking in it because, it's caramel macchiato. So it's largely sugar and milk with a little bit of coffee flavoring in it. So in this way, this social relationship helps reduce my stress, not just by encouraging me to go do these things, but also by giving me a shoulder to lean on when I need one. I'm not big into talking out my personal issues with a lot of people, and that's why the quality social relationships that I have are so important to me, because certain people have a way of also motivating you to share things with them by just providing a safe space and knowing that even if you get upset with each other, you are going to be fine. And that's how many of my close friends function with me. It also helps you to go, okay, well, I don't want to lay all of this on one person, so maybe I can talk to this person about it and this person about this other thing. This is kind of their area of expertise. And in that way, even if you don't have a ton of social support system relationships, you can still get a general feel for what your friends really think about what's going on. The people who know you best, getting their opinions on what's going on in the world around you, whether that be your partner or your family or your friends. And getting emotional stability via the support network can improve your resilience. So your emotional health is really related to your ability to cope with challenges and just difficult situations that you encounter in life in general. If you're emotionally healthy, that doesn't mean that you're happy all the time. That just means that you can feel your feelings and you can maintain control of them when you have a really difficult thing happen in your life. And then you can still manage those feelings without them becoming destructive. So a lot of literature says that you manage it in positive ways, but I don't want to conflate that with toxic positivity, because trying to be positive all the time and ignoring your other emotions is not emotional stability or emotional health. It's good to be able to look on the bright side, but it's also important to be able to sit with the pain for a little bit, like a Don Bluth movie. So if you have loss or stress or painful experiences in your life, someone who is emotionally healthy would avoid risky behaviors or risky coping strategies. They would pick healthier coping strategies. And we discussed that a while back in the episodes on problem-focused coping and emotion-focused coping. So check those out if you are interested in some of those healthy coping strategies. But your social network is there to help you when you're having these hardships, so you're not going through them alone, so they don't feel as overwhelming. Let somebody help you carry that burden. It doesn't increase the burden, it decreases the weight. So your social support system is going to help you increase your resilience and your ability to cope with the stresses of life. About 79% of Americans have significant stress in their daily lives, just their everyday life. So that could be really major, or it could be minor, but it can have a detrimental impact on your well-being. Prolonged stress is especially dangerous, as we discussed before, and it's one of the main contributors to 6 of the leading causes of death in the U.S., including cirrhosis, suicide, lung health conditions, accidents, heart disease, and cancer. So carrying that stress around all the time is not good for you, and it's important for you to take these steps to limit that stress in your life. And we're going to talk about some of those steps here in our final segment. So one way that you can do that, though, is to support others in your social group. You can get a sense of fulfillment from that, and you can also receive support in return. It's really an act of love is what that social support is. And support can look like a lot of different things to different people. So that may look like advice or active listening to you. Or if for your best friend, it may be like offering financial support or meals or helping you just talk through some problems. In my personal relationships, a lot of my personal relationships, not all of them, I am the crisis friend. So if something goes really sideways, your car breaks down and you need somebody to go and talk to the dealer with you about it because it's still under warranty and stuff, then I am the person who will go and do that with you. That is my best way to help out my friends. I'm also there for advice generally. Think about it as being kind of like a love language. However, it's also important that we examine how helpful we are in the social relationships we are in with other people in providing support to them. So it has come to my attention via my ex-boyfriend, who's still one of my great friends, and my best friend Marie, that I am prone to jumping into offering advice, or what we call fix-it mode. So as soon as someone tells me there's a problem, I want to go ahead and fix it. And I'm like, okay, here we go. A to B to C. This is how we're going to fix it. When sometimes they just want to talk about it for a little bit. They want to let off steam. So now I try to ask at the beginning, hey, do you just want to vent about this, or do you want help fixing it? It sounds meta, but it actually really makes it a lot easier. On both parties, it manages expectations and it's proactively communicating your needs with another person, which is super important for your social wellness. And it's taken me a long time to get to that point, but it's helped out along the way by talking to friends like my buddy Lauren, who has her doctorate in psychology. And when we discuss things, we ask each other that too. Hey, do you need a sounding board? How can I best help you today? And it might sound a little bit clinical or sterile for some people, but it really has worked out for a lot of different people in my life. Extroverts, introverts, people who are very straightforward, people who are a little less straightforward. By giving people that form of social support, you also help their emotional health grow and help them be able to learn assertiveness in situations. They're socially learning. So we can focus on intellectual learning a lot, but we also learn a lot via social interaction. That's something that happens a lot with primates, and there are a lot of anthropologists in the primatology subspecialty who focus on primate play behavior. So how different apes and also humans learn via play. And it works pretty similarly to how you see cats and dogs play, where they're learning how to hunt. They are practicing pouncing on each other to practice their ambushes and stuff. The play behavior is going to lead to their hunting skills later on. Now, personally, I'm not normally someone who wants to vent a lot about something. I want to discuss it once and resolve it. I am a resolution seeker. But for other people, that's not necessarily the case. So for some of my friends and I, it's, okay, we'll go ahead and talk about this together. You vent that out. But it's important for me to also communicate my boundaries on that subject. And that is letting you know that my emotional bandwidth is available for discussing with you once and just venting about it. But if we're venting about the same thing over and over again and we're not seeking a resolution, then I'm not your sounding board for that. That is what I tell my friend Marie. That's a Natalie issue. Go and tell Natalie about that. This is not the right venue for what you're seeking. If you want to get advice on helping you after this, then yes, we can totally discuss that again. But I don't want to sit there over cocktails or anything. I don't know. What do people normally do? I'm thinking about like Sex in the City. I don't want to just stagnantly discuss the same things over again, is where I'm coming from. And a lot of other friends in my life are also like that. It's different if it's a big problem like a chronic illness or something to that effect. But otherwise, if somebody is having trouble in their life and they're not seeking to fix it, and it's something that's within their control, then that's something that bothers me. And that just goes back to emotion versus problem-focused coping. And that's okay. They understand that that's where my boundary is, and I reaffirm those boundaries gently as needed and say, hey, we've already talked about this a few times. I understand that you said you just want to vent about this, but I don't have the emotional bandwidth to do that. I can help you fix it if that's what you want, but if you are just wanting to vent about this same topic again, then I recommend that you talk to this other friend about this. And you can do that, and your friends still love you. A lot of people, I think, get emotionally encumbered, or they feel that way because they don't think that they can communicate their boundaries with their friends. But that's what having a positive social support network is. It is a give and take of communicating needs and boundaries. In my experience, it turns out that that's super healthy and helpful for everyone all around. My friends are aware of my emotional bandwidth capabilities, and I'm aware of how I can best help them. And I know how to compromise on that and meet them halfway. It alleviates a lot of the stress in our lives. It also mitigates a lot of tension that might otherwise be there. There isn't that resentment that some people have in their friendships, in which, they are feeling overburdened by their friend, messaging them all the time to talk about the same things and complaining, and they don't feel that I'm being cold and unfeeling and not entirely emotionally present, because we're just straight up with each other about what we need. That is the importance of a positive social relationship on your emotional health. And when it also decreases that stress in your friend life, that can help encourage you to push through really challenging situations. And it can also help you feel valued and seen, which can also make you more content and less stressed. It is a positive feedback cycle. So if you are wanting to decrease the amount of stress you're experiencing in your daily life, check out how you're interacting in your relationships with others and focus on communicating these boundaries and your needs proactively. Don't wait for someone to ask you about them. Go ahead and have that gentle, kind conversation about what you need and what you can offer. We're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the impact of social wellness on mental health and overall connections. Stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Discussing the impact of social wellness on your physical and emotional health. Now we're going to talk about its influence on mental health. So our mental health makes a huge impact on our life. It influences how we think and act, how we behave, and it's super important for monitoring and boosting our mental well-being. Much like with alleviating stress and its boon to your emotional and physical health, your mental health also gets a boost when you are learning how to better manage stress and reframe your negative thoughts. Reframing is something that I work on quite a bit. It's one of my favorite techniques. It's like thinking, I'm always considering how could everything go wrong and creating contingency plans. And I get too focused into that so that I don't look at the other possibility, a whole other realm of possibility that's on the spectrum. And that is, but what if everything goes right? It's okay to hope for things. That can feel very dangerous to some people, depending on how you grew up and the circumstances of your individual lives. But it's also very important for your mental health to reframe those negative thoughts. You can still make contingency plans for what happens if things go wrong, but also take that time to sit down and consider what could go right. So I like to journal about that. We've talked about my journal before, where I have my shadow journal and my gratitude journal, and I've been journaling a lot more lately, and it's been getting more positive. Now, I'm not a gooey person, at least, not on the outside, but it has helped. And doing this podcast with you guys, talking to you guys every week, has really helped me out too, as we have delved into all of these different topics and discovered together that optimism is something that actually improves your health. It is statistically significant and scientifically studied to show that optimism can lead to healthier outcomes and just overall better well-being. And that, for me, has been the best evidence that has swayed me. I feel much more inclined to try to be more positive because I know scientifically it is better for me. That might sound a little bit cold and clinical again, but everyone is different, and that's what works for me. So if you're not a fluffy bubblegum optimism person already, that is okay. You can be optimistic on your own terms, and you can start by just working on reframing your negative thoughts. It has helped me out a lot. If you have pervasive negative thoughts, that can also lead to issues like anxiety and depression, and even suicide. But one of the best ways to work on those is to communicate those thoughts with other people. Talk to other people about your anxiety and your depression. You don't have to talk to just random people, but talking to a therapist you trust, or a friend or support group can help you out a lot in getting those negative thoughts out before they start influencing your behavior. It can also help you manage those feelings that are associated with mental health issues like anxiety or depression. I've historically been very open with you guys about my anxiety and depression. Y'all know I'm on Prozac and all that jazz. But medicine isn't necessarily everything. It's important to also try to talk to people about stuff. I'm not necessarily one who's super interested in talk therapy with a therapist. I prefer to speak with trusted friends about it. And that's also because I'm high-functioning anxiety or high-functioning depressive. So a lot of times folks just don't believe me or they don't understand when I say that I'm anxious or depressed. And they're like, oh no, you seem happy, you seem upbeat. Well, yeah, that's high-functioning anxiety and depression. Again, we're all individuals, and that looks different to different people. And my best friend, whom I have lived with on and off over the years, she will also be the first to tell you, I know she seems perky, but she also gets the dark and twisties sometimes, to borrow a phrase from Grey's Anatomy. That's what we call them, are the dark and twisties. So we get those sometimes, and it might not be super noticeable. It might just be in my silence or in my sigh or just her picking up my general energy, the general vibes, I suppose. And she can really tell when it happens. You can also tell because I'll sleep till 4 o'clock in the afternoon if I don't have to be up for work that day. Those are the dark and twisty bad days. But also, because I have someone in my social circle who sees me like that and accepts me as I am and doesn't push me to be happy, but makes space for me to communicate what's wrong with me, it makes it a lot easier. It reduces my anxiety and depression, really, because now I'm not anxious about how this person might be upset with me. When I was in Texas, I used to go to my buddy Mike and Nicole's house to go and help them with home renovations. Really, it was less helpful, per se. It was mostly Mike teaching me how to do drywall and things like that. I know how to replace toilets, so we did that one too, but I just want to learn more about home repair. You know, there's that intellectual wellness, and it got a healthy side dose of social wellness. But Mike and Nicole also supported my mental health by letting me know, hey, if it gets to be the day of the time we're supposed to work on this project and you end up not feeling up to it, that's okay too. You can just let us know if you just aren't feeling it or you're having a rough day. And that made a huge impact on me. I am not one who generally cancels plans, but I also will still go to things even if I typically don't want to, because I feel that I've already made that obligation. So I'm also reluctant to make obligations because I don't want to be held to, being obligated to do them on the day of if it's not related to work. So I don't want to make plans super far in advance unless it's like a concert or something like that. Because I don't know how I'm going to feel on the day of. I don't know if I'll feel like rallying. And that's totally fine because I have people in my social network who accept and support that. And by them supporting it, I don't ever feel the need to cancel because I have a lightness in my chest that goes, hey, this person loves you no matter what, and if you aren't feeling it the day of, they will understand. You don't have to go and do something that you don't want to do just because you signed up for plans. This isn't anything crazy. You're not going to a water park. You're just going to hang out at somebody's house. It's not really putting them out. And that allays my anxiety, and it uplifts my depression. It makes me want to hang out with those people more, just by them removing any type of expectation in that manner from me. Now that is specific to my individual experience, but I imagine that a lot of you also have that in common with me. And through that interaction with my friends, it's also taught me how to recognize that and be there for other people. If someone starts seeming kind of standoffish or cancels plans and things like that, or just keeps saying no to plans, it's important to have that conversation with them and go, hey, I don't want to invite you to anything that, you don't want to go to, or, rather, I don't want these invitations to make you feel pressured or anything like that. Would you be open to doing these things in the future, or would you rather I not mention that? And that opens up a lot of healthy conversations. Turns out some of my friends are just as anxious about communication as I am. We both like hiking though, so if we're in town at the same time, then we will go for a hike together. Communicating those needs and expectations just took a lot of the pressure off of that friendship too. And also off of romantic relationships as well. Just understanding where the other person is and putting all your cards on the table. Through developing my social wellness, it's been helping with my personal growth. It's been helping with communicating my needs and my emotional wellness in general. It can be very uncomfortable sometimes to do these things, but I think that your needs and your boundaries are important. And I'm learning that my needs and my boundaries are also important, and it's good to communicate them. It helps you develop a toolkit to communicate your problems or thoughts that are bugging you before they snowball into enormous issues or insurmountable negativity. And it can give you a really great interaction with people you can share your concerns with. I found out recently that a lot of my friends did notice that I never went to them with my problems. And I didn't think that anyone truly noticed that. But they would tell me that they felt bad talking to me about their problems all the time because I wasn't really reciprocating and confiding in them. So that's part of an emotionally and socially stunted part of myself that I have to work on. That's part of my personal growth. And I look forward to personal growth. So I say have to work on, but for me, it's something that I get to work on. And by reframing it that way, that helps me to appreciate it more instead of avoiding it like we avoid a lot of things that are good for us. Also, I've learned that sometimes by confiding in others, you also make them feel valued and you make them feel helpful and positive and like they are a good influence in someone else's life. That can also be good for other people's self-esteem and bringing your entire social network up with you. Also, it can foster an excellent connection with other people. Having that solid connection can lead to decreases in perceived loneliness. I don't know about you, but some of the times I have felt the loneliest in my life were in rooms full of other people. I didn't feel seen or heard or accepted or understood at all. But a large part of that was because I wasn't talking to other people about my personal issues. And it wasn't really on them to try to pull them out of me. I didn't know how to communicate, so it was making me lonely. And that really was a me problem. That can lead you to resent other people, but that's not really helpful. And it's not entirely an accurate placement of those feelings of being upset. Loneliness can lead to resentment and depression, decreased brain function, and chronic health conditions. So by forming these connections with other people, confiding in them, and allowing them to confide in you, it can alleviate these feelings of loneliness, which can improve your lifespan. Because loneliness, according to a Harvard study, can shorten a person's lifespan by up to 8 years. It has a similar risk factor of smoking 15 cigarettes per day, but it's something that we tend to neglect and really not consider at all. That isolation and loneliness can also contribute to health conditions like coronary heart disease, not just mental health issues. And I shouldn't say just mental health issues. Mental health issues are health issues. Your mind is a part of your body. Technically, your brain is a part of your body, but you get where I'm coming from. The brain houses your mind and your consciousness. And it's important to take care of your consciousness, just like you want to take care of your blood sugar levels and take care of your hormone levels for regulating homeostasis and all that jazz. So we need to keep that in mind too. So I should not say just mental health. It can impact your health all the way around. It can contribute to anxiety and depression and also coronary heart disease. And sometimes when you have these social connections to help you fight that loneliness and isolation, you don't even need the other person to talk. Sometimes you literally need a shoulder to cry on, or you need just someone to hug you for a minute and it helps you feel better. Or it could just be congratulations from a good friend on something that you've accomplished, like getting a new job, or somebody to just sit with you when you're experiencing pain and loss and sorrow. That connection is integral for your social wellness and for your overall health. In addition to those benefits, offering that support can also give you positive results. It can help you to feel accomplished and fulfilled. It can even reduce your stress. Yes, helping other people can also reduce your stress, especially if you're communicating your needs and boundaries along with it. My friend Hayden refers to it as, "This is what I'm offering you." So for example, if someone in your family is, or your friend circle, whomever, is pressuring you to do something like come home for Thanksgiving, and you can't really do that. You can get a couple of days off in the weeks leading up to it, or you can do Christmas or Thanksgiving, but they're saying, "No, I want you here for both." You just go, "Hey, I'm not able to offer you that." You don't even have to say that you're not able to. You can just say, "That's not what I'm offering you." It's okay to not want to do those things. Your free time does not mean that you have to spend it with other people. Your free time can be you time. If you just don't feel like going through the hassle of going through the airport and stuff to go home, or you just want to be with your cat this Thanksgiving, that's totally valid. If you just want a staycation, also valid. You don't necessarily have to do those things. And if they push you, you say, "That's not what I'm offering you. This is what I'm offering you. I can come home on one of these holidays. It doesn't matter to me which one. You pick which one is more important to you, and that is the one I will make plans for." Or you say, "That's not what I'm offering you. I'm not able to come home for Thanksgiving this year. I will see you at Christmas." Or even, "I'm not offering you Christmas or Thanksgiving this year. I will see you on Mother's Day," or whenever that is. "I will call you on Christmas, but I'm not able to get away from my plans with my partner's family who live across the country, or with my friends, or myself. I don't want to go do this thing. There's something else that I have planned. This is what I'm offering you." And I think there's a lot of power in that. It can help reduce your overall stress by meeting that situation head on and communicating what you want and need. It can help with your personal relationships, and it can also help better your community. We're going to go on another quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about some strategies for improving your overall social wellness. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Before the break, we were talking about how your mental health can be improved by your social wellness support system. Now we're going to talk about how to build that social support network. If you're anything like me and my first story today about trying to make new friends by literally writing your number on a piece of paper and saying, "Hey, do you want to be friends?" That might be, something that could work for you. That also might mean that making friends is a little bit awkward or difficult for you, like it is for me. I'm very friendly and engaging, so I make acquaintances very easily, but I'm not quite sure how to transition into that part of going, "Hey, do you want to exchange information and be friends?" Which is funny because we're in this world now where everyone is digitally connected almost all of the time. But forging these friendships or defining it as a friendship is very different. It almost feels like trying to figure out what are we in a relationship. So if you have trouble with that like I do, today we're going to break that down. The different types of support and how you can build it. Remember, support networks are important for giving you extra insights and perspectives. They help out when you're a little biased or proximity has clouded your judgment a little bit. So we're going to talk first up about what each of these types are. Emotional support is when someone's actions make you feel cared for. So, for example, I always feel precious and cared for when my friends who are way taller than me, because I'm only 5'2" and about 110 pounds, when they pick me up and they swing me around in a circle and a big old bear hug, it makes me feel precious and it makes me feel cared for. You're not going to do that with random strangers, right? It helps to reinforce the concept that we have this close emotional and social connection that allows us this form of familiarity with each other. It makes me laugh and it just brings me a lot of joy. So your emotional support might look different from someone else's, but it's the things that make you feel cared for when someone else takes a certain action. There's also instrumental support, and that is something physical, like cooking a meal for someone when a loved one has passed, or if they've recently gone out of the hospital, or are just not great at cooking. That's okay too. It could also be lending someone money. That is instrumental support, and that's an important function of a social network. It can also be informational. And that is when you provide information to help somebody else, like advice or going, "Oh, hey, I actually know a guy who can do that thing that you need for your business. Would you like his information?" Those are all really valuable ways that we can give and receive support. And you might use them in varying degrees in your individual life. Think about them again as love languages. Which one of these seems to be more of the way that you give support, and which are the types of ways that you like to receive it more. I love to give informational support, but the one that brings me the most joy is probably receiving emotional support. I also love instrumental support, so if you are into love languages, that's going to be those acts of service. I love doing things for other people, and it brings me great joy to express that as one of my love or support languages. So, to make sure your social well-being is healthy, it's important to examine what you need from others in your support and also what you are able to offer. And see if there are any ways that you can overall work on your personal growth through your social support attentiveness. You want to make sure that it's healthy and to nurture those relationships, and they should be mutually beneficial, and you have to make them a priority. So if you're considering a lasting relationship in any capacity, familial, friend, romantic, colleagues, you want to devote a certain amount of time each week to that relationship to show that it's a priority for you. That's very similar to just calling your mom once a week on Sundays for 30 minutes. Something like that. Or being honest and supportive of each other's feelings and hopes and dreams. Nothing can feel as vulnerable or as bonding to me as sharing my feelings and hopes and dreams with another person. Because for me, those have historically been private. So getting that support from someone else is a great act of love for me. And also, it's one of the ways that I love to express that love and support for others. I genuinely love supporting my friends as they are succeeding, just as I do when they are struggling. It's important to learn to be happy for other people. And overall, it really improves your overall happiness, at least in my experience. It can be fun to cheer on your friends. I wasn't a cheerleader in school. I played softball and basketball and things like that. So I wasn't the peppy type, but I did still enjoy cheering from the sidelines or from the dugout. It was a lot of fun. If it's necessary and you're having trouble in your relationships, it's also important to accept responsibility for any breakdowns that end up being in the relationship. And that's okay. It's just critically looking at it and going, hey, I played a role in this and it is what it is. We're going to just roll with it. Sometimes relationships break down and sometimes we are also partially to blame, and we can decide whether we want to repair that friendship or whether we want to walk away from it. And it's okay if you need to walk away. Maintaining friendships that are nurturing and valuable and mutually beneficial is important, and sometimes that means letting go of ones that aren't all that healthy. You also want to make sure you're not trying to fix a person. Help focus on the positives in their situation and be supportive. Don't lie to your friends, though. It's important to be honest, but remember that honesty without tact is cruelty. So we want to be tactful when we are having these discussions with folks too. You can also show appreciation in verbal and nonverbal ways. So like cooking, those instrumental ways, those are oftentimes nonverbal. If you're not very lovey, touchy, feely, but you still want to appreciate and support people in your life while they're here to know that you appreciate and support them, then there are different avenues available to you. You can email them some information, send them a link to something they were needing help with, or, go ahead and do a task for them that you know that they need help with. You can make them something, drop it off outside their house. You don't necessarily need to stay there and hash out all their feelings, but just doing something nice for someone shows that appreciation. You also want to resist the urge to jump to conclusions or to respond to somebody without having the whole picture. That's helped me a lot in healthy communications. So a lot of folks talk to talk. They are listening so that they can see when their next opening is to speak. But it's important to actually listen with the intent to hear and to understand. And you can ask probing questions if you don't understand totally where they're at. Instead of accusing someone of having certain intentions, you can ask them questions like, well, what was your intent behind that? What did you mean to change when you took that action? Now, that does sound clinical. I will give you that one. But without knowing your specific issues that you're facing, I felt that was the best way that you could kind of Mad Libs that in. So you put action in there, just replace action with whatever it is. What was your goal in doing this? And make sure that you mind your tone as well when you are talking to them about it to try to have a healthier conversation. I don't mean tone police other people, just be mindful of your tone if your goal is to avoid jumping to conclusions and responding to the whole picture. If we're seeking to understand rather than seeking to just express, then in my experience, minding my tone has also helped with that. You should also treat your relationships as a place to give, not just a place to take. You want to be reciprocal in that. And you don't need to be competitive. Don't be jealous of your friends' successes, or heck, even your enemy's successes. Go ahead and just be happy for people to have what they have. It sounds crazy, but after a while, if you reframe your perspective, you're not really going to have enemies. You can work on letting these things go. And by enemies, I don't mean like an arch nemesis. I mean perhaps friendships that have soured, or that person that you always felt you were in competition with in your life, whether that be a sibling or someone else in your high school or someone you went to college with. Just learning to be happy for other people can be joyous in and of itself. And if you are in those relationships that increase your stress or drain your energy levels, think about having a conversation with that person. Think about your needs and your boundaries that may not be being expressed. And if they have been expressed and they aren't heeded, have a conversation about that, because that's not healthy. If that person continues to disrespect you, then it's okay to end that relationship. You can give yourself permission to end that relationship if it's hurting you. And your social support network should really be giving you feelings of comfort, not anxiety or depression or pressure. If you'd like to work on expanding your social network rather than just improving the quality of the one you already have, there are lots of options for you. You can walk your pet in a public place where other people are. You can still socially distance while walking your dog in the park. You can join a gym if yours are open right now, or an outdoor fitness class or an exercise group. It helps provide you with a buddy to go and reinforce these healthy habits, and also fulfilling some of your social wellness aspects so that you don't feel lonely. You can also volunteer. Volunteering is wonderful. It's a great way to meet other people who share passions that you have, whether that be just going to your town Facebook page and seeing when they are doing a blood drive, or when your town is doing a cleanup project and they need volunteers for it. It can be a lot of fun, and I've made some good friends doing that kind of thing. Or making friends out of acquaintances, in which I go up to like the blood mobile. I gave blood this past week again. And when I did that, there was somebody else outside who I didn't know was passionate about giving blood to. I already knew that person in passing, but not on that level. And it's fun to see people explore and express their passions, even when you don't share them. Sharing in their joy is fun in and of itself, but also finding people who share your passions are important. Remember, only 38% of people in America are eligible to give blood, but only 3% really end up doing it. So if that's something you're interested in, go try it. You weirdly might make friends. And at the same time, you are helping to save a life. I'm right at the cutoff point. I'm 5'2", 110 pounds, and so they weigh me sometimes when I go in there and try to maybe talk me out of it, but I make sure I just eat a healthy meal beforehand. I drink a ton of water so my veins are nice and fluid and able to have the blood drawn from them fairly easily. And then I eat another big meal later to help replace all those calories and the iron that I have lost. So if you are right on the line, but you still feel like you want to go ahead and talk to them about it. They are healthcare professionals. They will talk to you about your risks, and you can make an informed decision. For me, if this was something you were worried about and you don't have any other underlying health conditions, that's the boat I'm in, and I am stoked to still have been able to give blood. You never know. You might be too. You can also go and find an interest group that meets regularly. So you can use apps like Meetup to find folks who meet and work on their hobbies. Meetup has absolutely everything imaginable under the sun. And if there's not already one on there, you can start your own. It's okay to start with a party of one and branch out. Chances are there are a lot of other people out there who share your interests or your hobby, but they also don't know where to start, and everyone's just waiting on a club to join. My personal favorite, you can go back to school or just take a class. A lot of community centers and community colleges offer classes that you can go take. Some of them are really short, some of them are full semesters. You can also go and practice your spiritual beliefs with people who have that in common with you, or your lack thereof if you are agnostic or atheist. But by being active together and taking care of yourself while you're caring for others and building and maintaining healthy relationships, pruning off the dead leaves of relationships that are unhealthy in your social network, and bonding with your family and your friends and just making connections can be super important for improving your social health. If you would like to try some more of these things and get some more information on different concrete ways you can build your social wellness, you can go to the NIH website, the National Institute of Health, at nih.gov and check out their social wellness checklist. It is literally a checklist broken down by category, and you can think about it as your love language again. So taking care of yourself while caring for others is in there, and it has a subset of ways that you can do that, like taking breaks each day or keeping up with your hobbies, joining a caregiver's support group, things like that. You could also go through all the other checklists on here. It's a 3-page PDF, and it offers some great jumping off points with action items and also areas for more research. So under Build Healthy Relationships, it has Share Your Feelings Honestly. So then you can go ahead and Google that, how to share my feelings honestly, how to ask for what I need from others, how to set boundaries, how to respectfully disagree with someone, or to even compromise. You can Google different ways to do all those things based off of these lists. If these concrete action items like try yoga and stuff are not really your bag, or if you just want more information about it. Again, that is the NIH.gov social wellness checklist. If you Google that, then it should pop right up at the top. Lastly, I just recommend general introspection. So take time to think about your current relationships. Which ones are you super happy with? And which ones might need improvement? Does that improvement look like trimming off the dead leaves? Or does that improvement look like working on perhaps watering your relationship more. Remember, the grass is greener where you water it. So think about that and see which ones need improvement. And then ask yourself, how so? So kind of do a who, what, when, where, why, how. Sit down with yourself and make a list of what makes a relationship rewarding for you. And see where you are getting those things in your different relationships that you already have. And also check in with yourself about whether you're providing those factors to other people on the reciprocal ends of your relationships. You also want to be intentional with the time you spend with others. Nothing makes me feel more connected to a person. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are other things that make me feel more connected to a person, but you know what I mean. One of the things that makes me feel very connected to a person is when they're very intentional with the time that they spend with me, where we don't have our phones out or anything like that. We're just spending time together in each other's presence and being fully present in the moment. So being intentional and being mindful. As you make these changes, you will likely notice improvements not only with your relationships, but also that trickle-down effect, or that spider web effect rather, of reduced stress, reduced anxiety, and depression, and having overall better mental, emotional, and physical health along with that emotional wellness. I hope this has been as helpful for you guys today as it has been for me. Go forth and work on your social networks. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask that you please subscribe to the show, and writing a nice review always really helps us. Also, if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd appreciate it. Thank you kindly, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.